drawing America's longest war to an end. The White House prepares to announce the withdrawal of the last of the US troops from Afghanistan. Alarm in Europe today as Tehran says it plans to boost uranium enrichment to 60%. This as President Rouhani doubles down in blaming Israel for the attack at Natanz. And Serbia becomes one of the fastest vaccinators in Europe. With 30% of people now inoculated, we report on the rollout among Belgrade's homeless population. Those are the international news headlines on France 24 this hour. I'm Nadia Massi in Paris. Thanks very much for being with us. And we start then with the news that on what will be the 20th anniversary of the September 11th attacks, the United States will withdraw all of its troops from Afghanistan. President Biden is to make the formal announcement later today, but this morning his most senior diplomat, Antony Blinken, has been holding meetings with NATO leaders in Brussels to coordinate the pullout of troops. Here's Blinken speaking this morning.
After the United States was attacked on 9/11, together we went into Afghanistan to deal with those who attacked us and to make sure that Afghanistan would not again become a haven for terrorists who might attack any of us. And together, we have achieved the goals that we set out to achieve. And now it is time to bring our forces home. We will work very closely together in the weeks and months ahead on a safe, deliberate, and coordinated withdrawal of our forces from Afghanistan. But even as we do that, our commitment to Afghanistan, to its future, will remain.
Well, the United States was initially supposed to withdraw all of its forces by May of this year. That was part of an agreement reached between the Trump administration and the Taliban. And it's not yet clear how the Taliban will react to this decision to push the deadline back, as our correspondent in Kabul, Nana Mus-Stephenson, explains.
Here in Afghanistan, people have indeed been counting down to May 1st, the deadline set in the deal originally made by the US and Taliban. So this announcement does give some kind of clarification that we now know that the US is not going to, in a rush, pull out of Afghanistan by May 1st. But on the other hand, it does raise quite a lot of questions because obviously it remains to be seen how is the Taliban going to react to this. The Taliban so far has continuously said that if the U.S. is not to pull out by the May 1st deadline, then they would see it as a breach of the deal, which by a lot of people have been seen as a warning that more violence could be coming. So it gives us some answer about what's going to happen around May 1st. But it also raises a lot of concerns here. The Taliban has been negotiating with the Afghan government since September last year. And what we've seen from that is that the Taliban did not at all seem very eager to quickly get a deal with the Afghan government. On the contrary, some would say it seems like the Taliban has been waiting a bit to basically take their time until the U.S. Would potentially leave from here. And of course, this new fact that the U.S. has set an actual date is later, but still there is a date for the withdrawal. It raises the questions as to why would the Taliban now be eager to make a deal, a political deal with the Afghan government. And I think what we hear from the U.S. side now, from Blinken, it does seem like he's reaching out to people here in Afghanistan who are very concerned what a potential further Taliban control and potentially political rule would mean for them. And I'm talking specifically about women and minorities who are very concerned that the price for some kind of peace, some kind of deal in Afghanistan could be paid with their rights.
Now, in other world news, European leaders have today voiced alarm at the news that Iran is planning to start enriching uranium to 60% purity, a move that takes it closer to the levels needed for an atomic bomb. Now, Tehran has long denied it is trying to build a nuclear weapon, but President Rouhani has said that Iran is taking action now in response to what he said was a recent Israeli attack on its nuclear facilities. Sanam Chantier has more details.
The Iranian leadership turning up the heat in a region already in the throes of several major challenges, and it looks like a game of tit for tat.
What you are seeing, our response to your malice, is replacing the damaged centrifuges with more advanced ones and ramping up the enrichment to 60% at the Natanz facility.
President Hassan Rouhani's announcement comes after an attack on a nuclear facility under extremely high security located in the desert in the central province of Esfahan. The incident cut off electricity to the site while reportedly damaging a number of centrifuges. While there have been conflicting accounts of what caused the blasts, Iran has pointed the finger at Israel, calling it an act of nuclear terrorism. Israel, for its part, as a matter of policy, has not confirmed or denied the attack. But the country's media has wildly reported that it had orchestrated a, quote, devastating cyber attack. Now, Iran's latest move is a message and a significant step as it takes the country closer to the weapons-grade level of 90%. That said, nuclear bombs are religiously forbidden by the Islamic Republic. Additionally, Tehran claims its enrichment program is only meant for peaceful purposes. The big question now is, what do the latest developments mean for the ongoing talks aimed at reviving the nuclear deal? For some, the latest threats and rhetoric from Tehran are just that. They have seldom resulted in any serious action. Others say the attack on Natanz could strengthen Iran's hand in the negotiations.
Sanam Chantier for us there. Now, in what is a European first, Denmark has announced today that it will stop using the AstraZeneca coronavirus vaccine altogether. This follows a possible link between the Oxford vaccine and very rare cases of blood clots. The European Medicines Agency has said last week that the benefits of that vaccine far outweigh the risks, but it added it was up to individual countries to decide what to do next. The suspension in Denmark could delay the country's vaccine rollout by about a month. Well, meanwhile, France has suspended all travel from Brazil as concern grows about the P1 variant, which experts say is particularly infectious and may be increasingly affecting younger people. Brazil's death toll is the second highest in the world, and today the Senate there opened an investigation into the president's handling of the pandemic. From Rio de Janeiro, Tim Vickery reports.
The last Air France flight. The last ticket to Paris for Romain Legal, a young student who had to cut short her Brazilian adventure after the announcement by the French Prime Minister. She had already undergone a PCR test.
Il y a juste un papier à remplir en plus. C'est pas dans les bars. Au début, je l'ai fait, mais au vu de la situation, du nombre de morts qui a augmenté, j'ai vraiment changé mes habitudes. J'ai vraiment fait attention au vu des morts et au vu du nombre en fait de personnes atteintes du Covid et notamment du variant.
Brazil is gradually becoming isolated from the world as the death toll rises. One of the hardest hit cities is Rio, also one of the places where vaccination is happening most slowly. In this Olympic park, which 5 years ago welcomed the world, they're going as fast as they can.
AstraZeneca, a dose é 0,5.
It's the turn of Marta, this 63-year-old woman.
Muito lento, muito. Principalmente aqui no Rio de Janeiro, está muito, muito lento. E ainda tem muita gente que não está tomando a vacina, infelizmente.
There's relief in the air and some anger too.
Sei lá, negligente. Por aí.
What more could
Poderia
he
ser
have
feito
done?
demais.
Eu acho que lá atrás já poderia ter começado e acho que já teria muito mais gente vacinada, menos mortos, entendeu? Muito.
Tenha tomado a vacina, a gente também pode pegar. E agora tem P1, variante, ele está ficando resistente.
According to a recent study, the Coronavac vaccine, the main one used in Brazil, is very effective against a new variant. The problem is that only 11% of the population have been vaccinated to date, a rate far too low when Fiocruz, the Brazilian equivalent of the Pasteur Institute, has detected more than 90 new worrying strains in the country, including the infamous P1 variant, which has been studied by this specialist.
A vacinação, em grande escala, se acompanhe do isolamento social. Vacinar apenas não contém a transmissão. E, além disso, o Brasil, de certa maneira, propiciou a propagação dessa variante na medida em que não tomou medidas de contenção social, de fechamento. Se hoje há um fechamento de fronteira, ele foi um fechamento tardio.
The fear of the health specialists is this. Underground parties are taking place everywhere, like this one in Rio just a few days ago, encouraged by a president who still argues against lockdown and social restrictions. In the streets of Rio, bars and restaurants have just reopened, against the backdrop of a variant that increasingly infects young people. In intensive care units, half of the patients are under the age of 40.
Tim Vickery there with that report from Brazil. Now, in the race to get Europe vaccinated, Serbia is emerging as something of a continental front-runner, thanks in part to vaccines from China and from Russia. 30% of the Serbian population has now been vaccinated against coronavirus. And as of last week, those people sleeping rough are now eligible for the jab. Our reporters in Belgrade have spent some time with the Red Cross team there as they vaccinate some of the most vulnerable people in the city. Here's their report.
54-year-old Dragan has been homeless for a decade. He lives in a shelter in Belgrade and gets by on casual work. Today he's being vaccinated against COVID-19 thanks to City Social Services, the healthcare system and the Red Cross.
Materijalna situacija mi je teška, iza nas je zima bila, radim fizičke poslove. Moram da pohvalim Crveni krst jer sam obavio vakcinaciju čak bez dokumenata.
With 30% of the population already vaccinated, Serbia leads Europe in anti-COVID vaccination. Belgrade has launched a vaccination campaign for the homeless. The first group of 17 were given the jab last week.
Dolaze na drugu dozu, na zakazanu kako je prema vakcini koju je primio, pošto nema telefona kome možemo poslati SMS poruku.
In this Red Cross shelter, homeless people can eat, take showers and receive clean clothes. This is the ideal place for the Red Cross team to inform users about the different vaccines.
Mi I dalje nastavljamo da pozivamo naše korisnike da se vakcinišu I imamo I sada zainteresovane.
But many are still reluctant to be vaccinated. Dragan isn't one of them.
Odbojnost je proizašla iz neke propagande da ne valja ta vakcina, međutim, dok je nauka to pronašla, po meni valja.
A third of those using Red Cross services have shown interest in the vaccines. But not all homeless people come to the Red Cross. It's difficult to predict how long it will take to protect all of them against COVID-19.
Now, the countdown has begun, despite lingering uncertainties, because there are now just 100 days to go before the start of the Olympic Games. But the Tokyo organisers are struggling to deal with a surge in coronavirus cases in the city, as well as delays to Japan's vaccination programme and a lack of public support. Yuka Roya has the details.
Buddhist monks blow shell horns to pray for successful games, as a new Olympic Rings monument was installed on top of Mount Takao. With 100 days to go before the start of the sporting festival, delayed for a year because of the coronavirus pandemic, the governor of Tokyo hopes the host city can turn the misfortune into a blessing.
心に残るそのコロナとの戦いを超えてですね、開催できる大会にしていく。
Reflecting the harsh reality, however, the game's official mascot, which Koike unveiled at the City Hall, will not be displayed to the public for now to avoid drawing crowds. Japan is seeing a fresh spike in infections. The country's second city, Osaka, this week was hit with a record number of daily new cases, topping 1,000 for the first time. Runners for the Olympic torch relay had to run through empty parks. Cases have also surged in the capital, Tokyo, and elsewhere. As the pandemic continues to rage across the world, organisers made the unprecedented decision to bar foreign spectators from coming into the country. Yet the International Olympic Committee remains confident.
So the next 100 days will be about refining all the details and testing, training the teams. This is what we're going to do.
This is a crucial time for the organisers to drum up public support. But with less than 1% of the population vaccinated so far, A majority of the Japanese public is still against holding the games altogether.
All right, those are our top stories this hour. Thanks for watching France 24.